Okay, we're on location once again at Buffalo Wild Wings, and we're giving you a bonus video this week. This video was supposed to come out on Sunday, but I told you guys yesterday what happened, so go back and check yesterday's Raw recap to find out what happened for this video. Yeah, I know, it's really random, isn't it?
I'm sure the message got out.
Yeah, I'm sure it did. All the 15 people that watched the video. But still, this is a bonus edition of AJ's movie reviews, and we'll go back to the normal we'll see next weekend. So starting this Friday, you'll get a normal movie review long day, and Sunday is the normal verses. So we're going to talk about 6 movies as we always do here. So AJ, take it away.
All right. In case you were wondering where The Giver was this past weekend, here it is now.
Yes.
We actually saw it on Friday, but a whole bunch of stuff got in the way, so...
I tried to explain that well to all the viewers yesterday, so hopefully some people heard it. Okay.
So, it's basically a cross between Pleasantville and Equilibrium.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Except it doesn't have the action of Equilibrium or the charm of Pleasantville. So, this is actually based on like a really popular book, and Jeff Bridges has been trying to get this made for like 15 years. But I don't know if just nobody wanted it, or they just couldn't get like a budget. I don't know. I have no idea why he couldn't, because he's Jeff Bridges. I think he'd be able to. But
you think so?
Apparently he had a lot of trouble. But it's finally here.
For better or worse, it's finally here.
And I'll get into this later, but this was a horrible time for it to finally happen.
Yeah.
Which may explain why it was now that it got made. Well, if you don't know the story, basically, I'll do my best. I'm still not quite sure. So we're in the world now, an unspecified part of the world. And what they've done here is, apparently this world has like a really, really horrific past. So they've decided to turn it into this big utopia, or seem that way, with really, really strict rules to keep it in play. Like, you get the injections from Dark City that wipe your memory, and they can basically, all your memories are gone. And they keep you from emoting, because apparently that's, like the plot in Equilibrium, it's basically against the law to emote.
You're not allowed to leave the area either.
And you are assigned families, whether you have a real family or not. And they're just assigned a mother and father that are Alexandra Skarsgård and Katie Holmes.
Sure.
I thought they were a weird couple at first, and then I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. They were assigned that way. And nobody has a last name. And this basically causes everybody to move and speak like robots. Like, everybody's always, like, apologizing for everything, and it's always like, I apologize, and they immediately respond with, we accept your apology. It's like the greater good from Hot Fuzz.
Pretty much.
And there was something about climate control. I don't know. This is filled with a whole lot of information.
Give me a lot of Lorax vibes, too. The fact that you couldn't go to the place outside because...
You're saying Jeff Bridges is the one slur.
Exactly.
It's also got a lot of, basically kind of, I guess, cliches regarding the futuristic genre. Because you have, like, the food that, like, makes, like, sounds, and it's, like, the plastic just kind of comes up, or the glass, or whatever the fuck it's under. There's just random floating robots. I don't even think they have jobs. Just every now and then a robot will just fly by and make, like, a Jetson sound.
Why not?
And they do this thing where I don't know the purpose of this, but the clapping on the knee thing.
Yeah, it's so strange.
It's like, they're not aliens, it's just the future. They look like something the Coneheads would do.
They did try to narfle the Garthok after all. I wish.
But yeah, what really threw me off immediately was them trying to explain all this.
Yeah.
And like the entire first half hour is just a whole bunch of exposition, just basically saying, hey, look how unique our concept is. But the story kind of continues into this separate thing where our hero is Jonas. That stupid song that Guitar Hero made famous. was stuck in my head because his very first line is, yes. Well,
Wow.
so anyway, they go to the, that ceremony in Divergent, the sorting hat ceremony.
Yes.
Well, this has that too.
But you don't bleed this time around.
So they're each being selected, and then basically Brenthwaite is by himself there. And this is basically what I think Brenthwaite probably feels like at casting calls.
You said this to me when we were watching the movie, too.
Well, it turns out there's a reason. It's because he has, like, all 4 traits they're looking for. He's divergent?
He's divergent.
Okay, well, apparently he's what's going to be the receiver of memory, where he's able to receive the memories. It's a pretty self-explanatory job. So he goes to the Giver, who is Jeff Bridges. I'm still not quite sure exactly what he does. He's right there on the edge of the boundary. But now here's the thing. I talk about the similarities to other things like Divergent and Equilibrium and Pleasantville, and pretty much every young adult book. I was getting a lot of vibes from The Host too.
Oh yeah,
not in plot, but just the appearance of it.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm aware that the book has been around longer than almost all of these things. That is the major complaint the fans have, is you can't fault it for being derivative because it technically came first.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is what I'm saying. Maybe it took so long to get made because they had to wait for this to be a trend before anybody had the balls to do it.
Makes sense.
But anyway, there are some scenes where we have, Bridges is fine. Obviously, Bridges is one of my favorite actors.
Yeah, same here.
Obviously, this isn't one of my favorite movies he's done lately,
No.
but, and the performances, even when you have, Jeff Bridges and Meryl Streep, the performances are just kind of there. Like, they don't really do anything to rise above the material or anything. They're mostly there because they had to sell it, I guess.
They're at least trying, though. You can say that.
But, no, Bridges is fine, and we do have some scenes with him that you kind of see a glint of something this movie could have had that it doesn't, sometimes. There's a scene where he goes into Bridges' memories, and a lot of the time when we see the memories, it's mostly just, nature footage, out of a Terrence Malick movie, or Lucy.
Yeah,
recently.
it's so weird.
At least there wasn't an animal humping montage this time. But and there's a war flashback. As soon as we were seeing all the memories, I was like, you can't do this without a war flashback.
Of course not.
How else can you do horrific, history without it? And yeah, Streep is there, but she's basically there to just discuss cryptic things. One of the things they mainly talk about is the girl from 10 years ago. It's really shrouded in mystery, and that's when I should probably mention, a big part of this movie's marketing was the fact that Taylor Swift was in it.
Yep.
She's wearing a brown wig, so you can't tell, or they dyed her hair, I don't know which. But maybe I'm thinking wigs, because that's what obviously Meryl Streep was doing. We see her in a hologram for a few minutes, and that's the extent of her. It's basically kind of a glorified cameo, more or less.
She got her piano playing in. That's pretty much what she got the role.
Yeah, basically. And yeah, you do have those Pleasantville aspects, the whole movie is in black and white until their personalities start to come out more, and they start to become color. It's exactly what Pleasantville is.
It really is. The thing missing was Jeff Daniels wiping over and over again.
And the boundaries with, when they're in school and Bud asks, so what's outside Pleasantville? And everybody's head explodes.
There's something outside Pleasantville?
Now, once again, I understand. I know the book was first, and I hear it's really, really great. Apparently it's a children's book, and it's not that long. And it explores a lot of stuff that may not have come through in the movie very well. Things were lost in translation, I guess.
Oh yeah,
a little bit. But having said that, still most of the faults fall on the movie. Because it being derivative is not the only problem with it. There's also the whole black and white aspect. I understand why it had to be that way, because it has to be like drab and emotionless and all that.
Yeah.
And just like make everything seem blank, because that's the whole point, because everything is, you know, without color and emotion. But there still could have been some kind of aesthetically pleasing way to do that.
Oh yeah.
It almost makes the movie kind of ugly, and it makes it to where it's so blank, it's not really conveying anything with that, it's just making you tired.
Oh yeah, completely agreed on that one.
Like, the director could have, like, strived a little more to make it... I mean, the problem is that it's been released after the likes of this young adult craze. So, a challenge the director could have brought on himself was to make this something that stood out among all this. Otherwise, but they didn't. It's like it basically surrenders to the fact that it came out too late, and it's just going to kind of go ahead and be just like everything else before it. And that just makes it, like, regardless of whether you were regardless of when it came out, it was gonna be, like, just seem like the same old shit anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I'll probably totally forget about its existence. Maybe by the end of the year, maybe a little longer, I don't know.
You're giving yourself way too much credit for that one.
But, yeah, so I don't really think this worked hardly at all. Like I said, even Jeff Bridges, one of the greatest actors we have right now, one of the most likable personalities in the business, it just can't make it anything more. So that's when you know you're in extreme trouble. And when Meryl Streep can't do anything about it either. I don't know.
What about the young cast? Do you have anything to say about them?
No. Like I said, I'm not, you know... Brendan Boyd's kind of won me over with The Signal, but then he's kind of back to the dull territory I thought he was in Maleficent and Oculus.
He's batting 1,000 for bad movies this year.
Well, with Oculus, it's not bad.
No, it's not bad.
He and that other girl were just...
You're going to tick off the Doctor Who marks if you start mentioning her.
I don't care about that anymore. I'm sorry. Alright. So let's finally talk about Boyhood.
It's been a long time since we were supposed to start talking about this movie.
The problem is I'm so late on this. There's really not much I can say that hasn't already been said by everybody else.
Yeah.
But I'll do my best. As you probably know, it's from 2002 to 2013, Richard Linklater went back to this and shot like 10 to 15 minute shorts each year and edited it into this one long epic movie. Well, and he basically did that between movies, like with, I think, Before Sunset, Bad News Bears, Fast Food Nation, A Scanner Darkly, all of them. He had a couple more, I think, but those were... He would just do that, like, in between movies. And for a while, a lot of people kept forgetting about it. Before Midnight, I guess we can throw in there.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it was one of those things where I always saw it on his and Ethan Hawke's IMDb page, but I always thought it would fall through. Or it would just kind of drift away and not become of anything. Because it basically had to all be... He had to put trust into everybody to commit to it.
Yeah.
So much so that he made a deal with Ethan Hawke to where if for some reason Linklater had died, Hawke would take over directing. And you can't do contracts for that long. I think the maximum for a contract is 7 years. Mm-hmm. So they just had to hope that it worked out. So it's actually kind of a miracle that the movie exists.
Well, they had a contingency plan.
Which I think is one reason that everybody's taking so much to it. And I'm sure it's something that will attempt to be copied many, many times.
Oh, yeah.
And those transitions are mostly seamless. Like, it's not until you see, like, Mason's haircuts or, like, the way his sister looks is the only way you can really tell the difference until he really starts growing. Apparently there was going to be a problem where Linklater's daughter, who plays the sister, got basically tired of it and asked him to kill her off.
Wow.
And he had to go in and tell her, it's not that kind of movie though. So, but by the time they got back to filming, she was back into it, so all was well.
That's good.
And there's not really a time where you can, I'm sure if you look close enough, but since I've only seen it once so far, on the surface you can't really tell if like if there was an actor that wasn't fully committed at the time they shot it, it doesn't come through.
Well, that's good.
So surely that had to have happened at some point, especially working with children. But I will say the casting is really great because Eller Coltrane, it is fucking scary how much he looks like Ethan Hawke. Like, from when he was a kid to now, he has always looked like Ethan Hawke.
Wow.
And he does even more so now. When he was on Fallon promoting this, he even had the goatee.
That's nuts.
Then again, he basically kind of grew up with Ethan Hawke as his dad, so, you know, it's hard to tell. So, and they throw in those things where it seems like they were doing a lot of predicting of what was going to be popular and how things would turn out. Like they knew the things that were going to be dated and would be funny. Like when she's at the beginning, we're in 2002, and she's trying to taunt Mason by singing "Oops, I Did It Again" at him. And I was thinking, yeah, that was like brand new when they shot this.
That's awesome.
And then there's they don't talk about the movie so much, but the premieres of the Potter books.
Oh, nice.
Like their mom is reading them like the Chamber of Secrets, and then a big event in there when they're getting into teenagerhood is the premiere of the Half-Blood Prince, the book. And they go to like the events and stuff like that.
A lot of people can identify with that.
There's the political stuff, like there's like we see 9/11 happen, and then there's or no, they're talking about 9/11 that just happened because it's 2002. And Ethan Hawke his character has a whole tirade about that. And they're talking about the election. And of course, once again, it's a bit of fun irony considering the result, because he said, so Dad, who do you think should be president? And Hawke's reaction is, anybody but Bush. And he goes on a whole anti-Bush tirade. And then he becomes an Obama supporter. And they go and they like take the, I'm so not into politics, I forget who he was running against in 2008, but they went through and actually pulled the signs out of other people's yards, put them in the trunk, and drove off. However, in the Star Wars conversation, that gets talked about a lot, where I think it was like in 2000, yeah, it was 2008, you can tell, because they're talking about movies, and he said, I don't like that girl because my 3 favorite movies of the year are The Dark Knight, Tropic Thunder, and he said another 2008 movie. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, okay, because we didn't know yet, so I was like, okay, clear, Pineapple Express.
What?
And I was like, okay, so clearly this is 2008.
Yeah.
They get to talking about Ethan Hawke says, so do you think they're ever going to make another Star Wars movie? And of course it's funny now because they say, well, they need to go back to like more prequels, because the last thing they want to do is follow up Jedi, because you can't do Episode 7. That just doesn't work.
Nice.
And once in 2008 they would have never known this. So
exactly.
It's very interesting to see all those things in there. They might seem gimmicky, but once again, it's not like they knew.
It's true.
They may have been hoping for that outcome, but they couldn't have guaranteed it, and it just happened to work that way. Now, despite all the things to praise about it, there are some things in there that you could argue. I've seen a lot of arguments about this. Obviously, because it's about coming of age, it's got a lot of cliches in it. The drunk stepdad's in this movie. I thought for a movie so acclaimed, I was kind of surprised they actually went as cliche as the drunk stepdad. He actually drives to the liquor store with them and says, I'm just getting this in case we have people over this weekend. Even though they never have people over on the weekends.
Of course not.
He like writes personal checks and makes Mason go in and cash them for him. That whole thing feels like really, really familiar territory. But the thing about it is, and there's a whole scene that basically plays like an after-school special, where Mason gets offered a beer, and there's the one kid that doesn't want to, and he's peer pressured into it. But then again, the argument on the other side that makes sense is that this is the reason these are cliches are because this is what really happens. So there is, obviously with the before movies, Linklater is all about authenticity and can do it like nobody else. People try, but really nobody can do it like Linklater. It just comes off kind of forced. But the authenticity in Linklater's movies really, really comes through well. Before Sunset really, really, I think is the epitome of it. So yeah, you can just say that that's not, because they don't even, it's not like it's necessarily done in like a TV movie kind of way, or a Lifetime movie kind of way. It is done in more or less a real way, even if it's still a cliche thing. He still manages to get the right tone for it, to where it doesn't feel out of place or anything. The performances are getting a lot of acclaim. I really, really loved Ethan Hawke here. This is probably one of his best performances. Probably his best after Before Sunset. I really love Before Sunset. Can you tell?
Yeah, definitely.
He has this really great scene where he's, well, just in general, he's very, very dad-like. Like, it just is just naturally to him. Well, you know, he's a dad in real life, so it makes sense. But I mean, he's like really, really dad-like. Like exactly like you'd expect in a movie like this. And he has this really great scene where he's driving them on their way from their mom's to go to his place. And he says, so how are things going? And they're like, fine. And they're like, yeah, okay. He just drives, and then he pulls over, and he has this big speech about how this is not going to be their relationship. He's not going to be the dad that gets the one-word answers, and they're just basically there because they have to be. They're going to talk to him like he's a normal person, and they're going to hang out like a family should. That's a really great scene for him. And I don't know if this is going to like stick, but you've probably heard a lot of Oscar buzz for Patricia Arquette. I guess I'm not positive in it, but people are talking about her like sweeping. I still think it's a bit early to be talking that, but she's good for a for now frontrunner status, I guess. Some people think now, obviously because people are the way they are, in the wake of her buzz, her performance is getting a lot more criticism. Like people are saying, she comes off a lot more amateurish in the first parts. But I thought she was consistent through the whole thing. She has a really funny delivery towards the beginning where they move out of the house, and the daughter doesn't like it. So she's saying like, goodbye house, goodbye yard, goodbye box of stuff that we have to leave because mom said so. And she just says, okay, make sure you say goodbye to your horseshit attitude. And then she has her very last scene. She gets a big emotional speech everybody's saying would be her Oscar clip. See, that's probably the best she's been for a while. I never watched a Medium, but yeah, I would say it's also very interesting to see her physical appearance change. Like she's also kind of a giveaway of every year that changed because she pretty much changed her appearance every year. The pace is mostly really good. For a movie like this, it goes rather smoothly. But the only problem is, to make it kind of a weird comparison, I was thinking about the pace of 12 Years a Slave. Because what I complained about with that was, what both movies do is they have a flow that kind of seems to be constantly moving and going in a constant direction. But then in like the last 45 minutes, they get to a spot that they want to stop at and just kind of stay in one spot. And it really messes with that flow you had going the whole time. So like, basically what I'm saying is when Mason gets to be like his full age, like the age he is now, it's basically when they get to Edwin Epps' plantation.
Oh. Well.
And then it just kind of stays there and it kind of messes the pace a little bit. But, no, for the most part, it does flow really nicely. And it might end one or two more times than people want it to. But unless they're really, really into it. But, Yeah, it's still definitely worth checking out because obviously it's like a landmark thing, and it's actually good to kind of go along with that. Because usually you just kind of have the gimmick, and then that's the extent of it, and it'll wear off for a while. But I think people will like this for a while, at least, as long as their cynical minds will let them. Don't let it get too much Oscar love, because then everybody will fucking hate it suddenly. Okay, speaking of fucking hate,
here we go.
Our next movie is Palo Alto, the movie that Gia Coppola adapted and directed. She's the granddaughter of Francis Ford Coppola, I think. She's in that whole family. And it's based off that book that James Franco wrote, that he talked about in all of his interviews for a while. It's another coming-of-age movie. Only it's like teenagers and onward. It mainly focuses on two characters, one of which is Emma Roberts, and the other is a kid named Jack Kilmer. If you're wondering about the relation, it's his son.
That's crazy.
And yes, he's in it, but I'll get to that in a minute. So basically, Kilmer and Roberts play these two kids who apparently have a thing for each other, but they don't really approach each other and they don't really associate. I don't know how that works, but they never really talk or interact until like the middle of the movie and then the end. But the whole thing is basically obviously coming to, these two are going to do their coming of age thing and get into trouble and then resolve stuff until they eventually come together and become like the thing. That's basically what the whole movie's heading towards. Kind of. I don't know. And he gets in trouble and he's doing community service because he was driving drunk and hit Colleen Cam's car. And she's on the soccer team and she has a thing for her coach, who is James Franco. And he's, you know, he's misunderstood because he's not really the trouble type, but he's always getting into trouble anyway, and he's artistic and he plays the guitar. He's that guy. And she, I don't really know. They don't really give us much with her character. Enough to like anyway. She just kind of does the things that she does, and we don't really get inside her head or know why she does what she does. So maybe that's the way it's supposed to be, I don't know, but she's not a very fleshed out character. Now, here's another character. The reason Kilmer's character is always getting into trouble. He's got a best friend, played by Nat Wolff, who, you know, I love so much after I just reviewed Behaving Badly. Well, he's playing a character here who is really, really obnoxious and unlikable. He's the trouble friend that gets he has all the crazy ideas and wants to do all the stuff that gets them in trouble, and he's not willing to take the heat. He always gets other people in trouble and he gets away with it.
That guy.
This character really brings this movie down so much. He's that character where every time he's on screen, you wish he would go away. And not in the way of like, oh, what a well-written character because I hate him so much. No, it's not like that, because if he were well-written, you would hate him for a reason. But he would still be interesting and fascinating to watch, and you'd be interested to see where his character arc goes. Every time one of his character scenes ended, I was hoping he would never ever come back. Because it was just, he's an unbearable character. And I don't know, like I said, I know they make it really clear we're supposed to hate him, but I hated the movie itself more when he was in it, is the problem. There's something misplaced here. And there's this thing where he has a fling with this girl, Emily, who is like the slut character. The one who talks about sleeping with everybody, does sleep with everybody, does everything.
Ali Mashaka and Easy A.
Here's the problem. What if I were to tell you that the slut character is the most sympathetic character in this movie?
I actually buy that. Weirdly enough.
What kind of message would that send you?
Not a good one, but I buy it.
That's what I felt anyway. I don't know if you're supposed to feel that way, but that's just the way it happened to me. Because when she ends up getting used and abused by Nat Wolff's character, you actually do feel sorry for her. And she does take action later, and you want to applaud her. But I thought that was weird as well. The sad thing is that it's a coming-of-age movie, but the only characters really worth talking about are the adult characters. Franco's, obviously I'm like a Franco fanboy, basically, a Francophile, if you will, but he's really good here and does the, he's not overly creepy, but what he's doing is really sleazy, but he plays it off like he's just innocently acting on his impulses. And he managed to balance that really well. Kind of funny in the wake of that little that Instagram scandal he had briefly.
Yeah.
But no, he went on like talk shows and talked about how the character he plays in the movie he wrote to be like really creepy. So I assume when he wrote the book he wasn't planning on actually playing the dude anytime soon, but that's what happened. There's 2 scenes with Val Kilmer. Where he's Emma Roberts' stepdad. But he's just kind of there. He's like, hey, this is my son's first movie. I'll stop by the set and hang out. It looks like they could have done something funny with him because basically he just hangs out in one room and plays video games and wears a towel on his head. And he writes her papers for her.
Not as good as it sounds.
And yeah, that's all they used him for. There's we meet Nat Wolff's dad, who's a Christmas Santa, who has one really funny scene where he and Jack Kilmer get high together, and he like makes some move on him. I would have liked to have seen more of that character, but he never came back after that scene, of course, because this movie obviously really has its priorities straight. So basically all it is an ode to whiny emo kids that get drunk in school. That's basically what it is. And for some reason at the end, it starts to get dark from out of nowhere. Like more so than it should. I'm all for throwing a little darkness into your climax, but this just seemed out of place. A knife gets pulled on somebody, and we think they actually might use it. I didn't expect that. Not in the good unexpected way either, in the should this be in this movie kind of way.
Someone grabbed the wrong script page.
But regardless of going dark like that at the end, number one, there's really no payoff to it, and secondly, the movie has like no peak. Like, you know, you're supposed to kind of be moving towards something.
Yeah, of course.
But it just kind of does its thing and then stops. You're basically just sitting there watching these things happen to these totally uninteresting characters. And they try to end on a type of ambiguous note, but I don't care. In a movie like this, when your characters are uninteresting, that's like an instant death sentence. Because that's like your core, that's your heart. And I just didn't give a fuck about a single one of them. Except maybe Emily the slut. But okay, so that's what that kind of movie is. Apparently it's getting a positive reaction. I don't know why, but apparently the reaction has mostly been positive, and I don't get that. Especially being the Franco fan that I am. I expected to have a different reaction, but I didn't at all.
It's a shame.
Yes. We're not really getting any better either.
Doesn't sound like it.
I feel like I hate everything now. And that's really bumming me out. I don't want to be that guy.
Well, the thing is, this year started out so good, and then after a couple of months, it just kind of like ruined it for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Well, our fourth movie kind of hits home right now. It's The Face of Love, which was one of Robin Williams' last movies, with Ed Harris and Annette Bening. He's a really small supporting character, though. The main character is Annette Bening, and she has the absolute perfect marriage to, I Ed Harris. I forgot his name. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, and Jess, God, what's her last name? From Teeth. Oh, man. She's their daughter. I feel so bad for forgetting her last name. God damn it.
Hold on.
She's Jessica Chastain's best friend in real life, but that's how I know her. Well, anyway, they have the perfect marriage, and then Ed Harris's character dies. They're at the beach in Mexico, and he drowns. And we cut to 5 years later. And she's hanging out with the next door neighbor, who's Robin Williams' character. And his wife has died, her husband's died, they're best friends now. Now, of course, they do the thing where Williams has a thing for her, but he's too afraid to say it. And they do a whole thing with that, but that's later. For now, Annette Bening goes to this art gallery. And there he is, Ed Harris. But it's not Ed Harris's character, it's Ed Harris playing a guy that is the absolute doppelganger of her husband. That does not know them at all. He's a total and complete stranger.
We're doing that a lot this year.
Yeah, 3 times now.
Yep.
So, she's fixated by this and follows him around. And it basically turns into romantic vertigo. It's even in an art gallery.
It's so random.
She just follows him around. And then finally he's a teacher, an art teacher. So she tries to get into his class. And he says he'll give her private classes at her house. Because his class is already full for the semester. And he likes her, but he doesn't know why she's so taken by him. So, you can probably guess where this plot goes. They do the I have a secret thing. And we have to wait and wait until that water tastes like a rubber glove. We have to wait until this lie is revealed. But that's not it. There's so more to it than that. There's more contrived plot points awaiting.
Of course there is.
Not only does she not tell him that he looks exactly like her dead husband, she doesn't tell him that her husband's dead. She says that he left her. I don't know why, but that's another thing that is added onto the big lie pile.
Oh no.
So, now, and she doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't tell the daughter, she doesn't tell Robin Williams, she doesn't tell anybody. She's trying to keep him a total and complete secret and keep him hidden. But she's telling people that she's found a dude that makes her really happy. But she doesn't want to say why he makes her so happy. And there's kind of that inner turmoil. Does she love him for him, or does she love him because she's basically using him as her dead husband? That's basically what it is. So the thing about it is, one of the main problems here, you might kind of find this surprising actually, when you talk about like consistent actors and actresses. Annette Bening is not good at all in this movie. I don't know what happened. I don't know if it's the dialogue or what it is, but her deliveries are like really, really stiff and weird. And some of them are just like really odd, like where all her words just kind of run together. Like she's talking about when she's thinking about when she's talking to Williams, and she's talking about when she found Ed Harris's body, and she says like the line is, you know, it's so weird. I was just thinking when I found him after he drowned, there was like sand on his lips. But the reading goes more like, it was weird. I found him, there was sand on his lips after he had drowned. It was weird. It's like it's all one gigantic word put together. Interesting. And the dialogue doesn't help. It's not only is it not very good dialogue, but it jumps around everywhere. Like they'll be on 3 different topics that just jump around in one scene. And there's no real big dramatic scenes either. And for a movie like this to set them up like that, there's one scene where we think he's going to be revealed to Williams early. And it sets it up in kind of a nice suspenseful way because she lets Williams use the pool whenever he wants. And there's a scene where after they have an art session at the house, she tells Ed Harris he can swim in the pool, so he doesn't have to go home right away. and we see Ed Harris in the pool, and we see Robin Williams coming over. And we're like, oh shit, he's gonna see there's a guy that looks exactly like the old Ed Harris in the pool. I wonder how this is gonna play out. He comes over, he sees Annette Bening with a guy with his back turned, and we're like, oh, he's gonna go introduce himself. We're gonna have the big moment now. But no, his character just walks away, and that scene is worthless. Nothing happens in that scene.
That's a lost opportunity right there.
And then there's another scene like that where it's like, okay, are we gonna get rid of this bullshit plot and like actually do something with this movie now? So they go out to dinner, but then she starts to have a panic attack. When she realizes what she's doing, she goes to the bathroom, and he goes and gets her, and she pokes her head out, and it's like, okay, it's confession time. We're gonna see how he reacts to all this. She's gonna finally let it all out, and we're gonna get this over with quickly and see where the movie goes from here. Not the case. Just as she's about to confess, she changes her mind and says, why don't you just take me home? So we have to keep waiting, and then that's when I realize, okay, so this movie's gonna do nothing but this until the big lie's revealed at the end. And that's all this movie's gonna be. Fucking great.
You're basically gonna twiddle your thumbs for the next duration of the rest of the movie.
And that's not all. There's another secret being kept from her. This Ed Harris character has a bad heart and is also on the verge of death.
Oh my god.
So, yes, they're trying to make this as weepy of a movie as you can possibly get.
It could have been Long Lost Twins, at least they didn't go that direction.
Yeah, it could have been worse, I guess.
Yes, indeed.
But now here's the thing, here's the problem. And this movie does this a lot. You've probably noticed there is a trend here that a lot of what happens, like a lot of the reactions to what happens, are very illogical.
Yeah.
Like, and they're only there to drive the plot in certain directions and cause turmoil. When, if they had like realistic reaction to these things, this movie would be a lot more easy to take, and the problems would be a lot more easy to solve. When he, spoiler I guess, when he does find out that the old Ed Harris died and didn't leave her, he doesn't say, oh, I'm sorry, how can I help you through this? You must be in a lot of pain right now to go through something like this. He gets mad and drives off and slams shit. As if he, like, I don't know. If anything, is it not better news? Because his thought was, he thought what she was hiding was that she was seeing him again and he came back.
Yeah.
Would it not be a relief that he's fucking dead?
I guess so, in some way.
But no, when he found out, he got mad. I mean, I can't say, I guess, because I haven't been in that situation, but it didn't jump to my mind that would be the first reaction to something like that. I don't know. But, yeah, they do this really, and the daughter, Jesus Christ. Obviously, the time comes where we have the scene where the daughter sees him for the first time. Why she would react the way she does, I have no idea. I don't think it's a normal human being's reaction, and it's way over the top. But that's what the movie does, because it needs another problem.
Of course it does.
And yet, it's this really soap opera story, obviously. And just has all these melodramatic reactions to everything in it. When you could be making serious drama with this setup.
Yeah.
But, nothing. And then you have the Williams character. He's good, but the character is, like, kind of weird and clingy. So it's kind of hard to see where he's coming from. Once again, those illogical reactions that everybody has in this movie. It's kind of hard to take that character. Now, luckily I'll be able to, this won't be me ending on him, because we got a whole tribute video I want to do.
Absolutely.
At some point. When we have time to really, like, do it for real. He does have a funny delivery, though, when everything's kind of been revealed and he sees from a distance the new Ed Harris. And that's when he realizes something is up. He doesn't overreact finally because he's from a distance, so he just kind of notices it, and then Annette Bening comes to his door at the end, and she's like, "Hey, we need to talk," and he just says, "You think?" I like that delivery. But yeah, this movie is basically like standard 90s tearjerker shit at its absolute glory. This movie has 1995 written all over it, and it would have been huge back then.
Probably.
Now it's just like a small limited release. It came out like last month, actually, like a month ago. But I just now got to it. I can't remember if it was the theatrical release or the DVD release. It might have been the DVD release. It was a month ago, but
maybe.
Yeah, that's what this is. I mean, if tearjerkers are like your thing and you watch like Lifetime Movie Network a lot, you might be really into this. But as a movie, like itself, with a cast list like those three, an Oscar winner and two nominees that have been nominated a lot. No, I don't know how they ended up. I really don't know how they ended up in this, because the director is nobody I recognize. I don't know, unless just one got attached and the other two kind of came along. I don't know. Or this director, I don't know, knew them personally in some way. That's the only way I can think of how these three would get involved in a movie like this.
That's possible.
But alright. Our next movie, we're going French again. Everybody loves hearing me talk about French movies and how much I love them. It's not French movies in general. I just happen to watch the bad ones, apparently. But anyway, they made Beauty and the Beast with Léa Seydoux and Vincent Cassel. And they basically kind of made it in a way I wasn't expecting. I was expecting something kind of like dark, I guess. Because French movies with Vincent Cassel normally are pretty dark.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like, I guess this is what a kids movie looks like in France, if I had to guess. I don't know. It's the tone is so off, but it's the story, well, I don't know. It's not like the way Disney told it, but I don't know if this is like the real story or what it was. I don't know much about like the story, but I assume it's something like this. You have a merchant and his three daughters, because there's always three daughters. And one of them is Belle. And the merchant is in like, deep with a lot of people. He owes people a lot of money. His life's in danger. A lot of people want to come after him, so he decides that he's going to flee to another land. And he brings his daughters with him. And once they're settled there, Belle's pretty much the only one that's happy, because she just likes the idea of fleeing, I guess, getting away. Well, eventually he comes across a castle. Basically Edward Scissorhands' castle, it looks like on the inside. And the score kind of sounds similar to it too, a little bit. And you see the big giant banquet table with all the food on it. So the merchant decides to just basically help himself and start stealing shit and doing all of that. And he's caught by the owner of the castle. And the owner of the castle is Vincent Cassel's Andy Serkis Beast. And because of this wrongdoing, the Beast does the logical thing and says, "You ate my food, you stole my stuff, I now put a death curse on you." So the merchant is going to die, but Belle decides, well, I'll go to the castle and I will take his place. So Belle goes to the castle and stays there. I don't know if she's supposed to adopt the death curse or what, because the merchant still seems to be dying. I don't know what. It doesn't matter. The story from As You Know It is pretty much where it goes from here, more or less. I'll tell you the first thing I noticed immediately is how artificial this movie looks. Obviously they want it to look very fairy tale-like. They really, really want to embrace that. But the problem is this movie, with the exception of Léa Seydoux, might as well be animated. Because it is so CGI heavy, and practically none of it is convincing. The very first shot of the movie is the storybook opening. You know, that old shot.
Yeah.
The storybook opening is obvious CGI. And then a ladybug flies around that's obvious CGI, and the obvious CGI just goes from beginning to end. When we see like giant overhead shots of landscapes, they look incomplete. There's one scene that's really embarrassing where we get Cassell's backstory about how he accidentally killed his princess of sorts or whatever, where she's like a deer or something, and she's running around, and he fires an arrow at her. When he's chasing this deer around, I've seen computer games that look more authentic.
Ouch.
Old style computer games, not like the really high tech stuff now. So, like, you know those old, well, while we're on the subject, a deer hunting game that you see in like those arcades and those machines. It kind of has the same graphics as that.
Duck Hunt?
Not that bad.
So my expectations kind of low. So.
And yes, because it's the French, even making a kids movie, they have to have a naked woman in it. Because they're the French.
Of course.
That's one thing to love about them. So, and then we have, I got some James and the Giant Peach vibes in some scenes. And then there was, basically what they've done here, you remember, obviously we're talking about Beauty and the Beast, but let's go to Snow White for a second. Remember in 2012 when they made Mirror Mirror and Snow White and the Huntsman?
Yeah, absolutely.
And they were two totally different things. Snow White, the Huntsman was trying to be like a dirt, thing, and Mirror Mirror was trying to be like the light, happy, dressy thing. This version of Beauty and the Beast is basically like taking Mirror Mirror and Snow White and the Huntsman and combining them. And it looks really weird.
Sounds like it.
Like I said, the tone is really fucked up. Because in one scene you have Vincent Cassell over the dead body of his naked girlfriend. In the next scene you have these animated cartoon dogs with the really big Puss in Boots eyes that follow Belle around everywhere. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't fucking know. But anyway, and then, we have to have flashbacks of Vince Cassell as the Prince because he's a huge name. We need to give him some face time. We can't just have him in the Beast CGI. Which also is... I think he would have looked a lot better in makeup, but who the fuck wants to do that anymore? Fuck practical effects. Fuck. So, even in France they say that now, I guess. I thought they were the ones that, they were the start of cinema. Why aren't they sticking to, the real movie shit? But this movie looks so fake. Like, I can understand exactly where they were coming from, and I knew exactly what they wanted it to be, but it just looks like shit. They do, big widespread shots here just for the sake of it, just to say, look how sweeping we are. And it's like, that'd be awesome if it didn't look like a fucking computer game. Anyway, in one of these flashbacks, we see him with the princess, and we get their little love story, so we know why he's the Beast. And she's loving on him and kissing on him, and she says oh, you smell like a beast, and it's like, oh, that's brilliant foreshadowing. That is just the absolute kind of writing Hollywood is looking for.
I refuse to go into sarcasm. That's just horrible.
And now we have, obviously they have to fall in love, because that's just what has to happen.
Yeah.
And this movie does not seem too bothered by that, because there's no transition, there's no chemistry, there's no build-up to it. The love story just kind of happens to happen, because we have the dance scene, where she dresses him up, and they're not in an actual ballroom, they're outside in this thing, surrounded by twisted timber tree branches, and they have a vision that they're in a ballroom with applauding people. But in the middle of this dance, she does the thing where she rests her head on him, and it's like, oh, this is the start of the love story. Wait, where the fuck did this come from? They hate each other. And it's not in it's not like the old they hate each other, they're gonna eventually fall in love thing. No, it's they're coming from totally different directions. And then it just happens in this dance, just because it has to happen. I guess. I don't know.
Sure.
Now the main problem here, besides, it's shitty effects, and it's, even with the actors that they have, the acting is totally off. There's nothing good about that or stands out. The Belle character is really, really surface. There's nothing to her at all. You could wave a hand in front of her face and she wouldn't flinch.
That's a shame, too. That's an awesome character.
The movie, as you can probably imagine, it's just boring. That's what it all comes down to, really.
I love this story, but the way you're talking about it does not make me want to watch it.
And when it was over, I was like, okay, so this is what a teen movie as a French film looks like. But then I started to think, who is this made for? Because there's different elements to it that seem like they'd go to a different audience. There's some parts where it looks like it might be kind of a dark, R-rated kind of thing. Then there's the thing with, like, the teen... The romance plays off like a fucking teen movie. Despite being Lea Seydoux and Vincent Cassel. And then you have the fucking cartoon dogs that are like for 5-year-olds. I don't know what this is aiming for. No idea.
And that's why it doesn't have an audience.
I don't think anybody knows about it. It doesn't have I don't think it has a US release date or anything. See, I don't even think Rotten Tomatoes has touched it yet.
That's saying something right there.
It was at a film festival. I think Berlin or something. I think that's it so far.
That's close enough, I guess.
Okay, so...
I've been laughing all day.
That's what that is. So we can go on to our last movie now. Our last movie is an indie movie called About Alex. It's basically The Big Chill. The very first scene is Jason Ritter sitting in a bathtub and dressed in a suit. So you know what he's gonna do. He's gonna pull a Costner. So he leaves a tweet, a suicide tweet, and then we don't see this thing. We learn about it later, but he cuts his wrists. Problem is that he survives. And so all the friends come out, and they come out to this house, and they're gonna do the Big Chill thing. That's it's in that genre of the indie movie that's by a writer-director, and one of his probably doing his first movie, where old friends get together to exchange dialogue, witty dialogue that this writer-director has written that he's really proud of. That's basically a whole genre now. Like with 10 Years and Drinking Buddies and The Big Ass most recently. It's basically its own genre now, and this is right in there with them. And you'll see a lot of repeating cast members from those movies I just mentioned. We have... our main focus is the couple that's Nate Parker and Maggie Grace. You might remember Nate Parker from Arbitrage and Maggie Grace from Always Being Taken.
Yeah.
And then we have Aubrey Plaza and Max Greenfield from New Girl. And Aubrey Plaza is basically this, I think she's also kind of the focus. She's kind of the bland character she always plays. Basically not knowing, how to control the decisions that she makes. And she keeps sleeping with Max Greenfield's character because they used to do that and she just can't help herself even, despite her own judgment. So, then we have Max Greenfield's character, who's basically this very unbearable guy that is always talking in psychobabble and thinks he knows all and tries to be as cynical as possible and thinks he's above everything. And we have to deal with that through the whole time.
They switch it back again?
And then we have
And you need new one of those?
another couple. Yet another couple, who are Max Miguel and Jane Levy. I love Jane Levy so much, and I was so glad to see her again.
It's been a long time.
My gosh, she looks so good in this movie. Much better than she looked at the end of Evil Dead. She's got both her arms now. I never watched Suburgatory. Maybe I should if I love her so much. And their story is Max Miguel used to be Aubrey Plaza's boyfriend, and she still has a thing for him. And Jane Levy's basically his younger girl now, who was once his intern. And now Aubrey Plaza's like really resentful of her. And then obviously we have Jason Ritter, who just tried to kill himself in the middle of this. So old secrets are going to come out, old crushes are going to come out, old feelings are going to come out. Everything you could possibly expect to happen in this movie will probably happen. You've seen, if you watch a lot of indie movies, you've seen this movie already so many damn times. It's ridiculous. It's got a lot of age-old plots, like I talked about. You have the two people who just kind of sleep together against their better judgments. Maggie Grace has a secret pregnancy plot where she's keeping it from Nate Barker's character, so it can come out later in dramatic fashion. Which doesn't last as long as it could have, so I give them credit for that. And then, you know, the whole younger girl jealousy thing. All these plots are very familiar. And they don't really do anything new with it either. And like I said, the whole thing is just the big chill, except he survived. There's even a moment here where they basically directly call it out too. Like it's enough like the big chill to where it goes unsaid. But then there's a scene where they're all sitting at the table and Aubrey Plaza actually says, "Wow, this feels like an 80s movie." She doesn't outright say the big chill, but she says, "Oh my god, I feel like I'm in an 80s movie with all of us here." And to top it all off, they get it. I thought this was funny at first until it occurred to me. They find a dog in the woods that doesn't have a collar, so they decide to hang on to it. And Aubrey Plaza suggests naming the dog Jeff Goldblum, which at first I thought was funny, but then it occurred to me, oh, for Christ's sake, did they just make another direct reference to this being the big chill? So, after a while, they're just outright referencing it. You might notice in this trend often that the writer-director is usually somebody famous's son. When I just did The Big Ass, it was Ned Beatty's son. Here, it's a guy named Jesse Zwick. And Edward Zwick was a producer. Edward Zwick, the big director of like Glory and Blood Diamond, among many, many other things. I don't know exactly what their relation is. I'm going to assume he's probably a son, but I can't be sure. So they pick up that plot as well. It's worth noting that despite all of this, the whole cast is really good. Most of these people I already like anyway. Max Greenfield was my favorite thing about New Girl. Max Minghella is an expert at covering up his accent still. I remember when he did an interview when the internship was out last year, and when I heard his British accent, my head about exploded. Like I said, I love Jane Levy. I've never cared that much for Aubrey Plaza, but she's alright here. She's not too bland, even though I gave her crap for that just a second ago. Nate Barker's really good. He's really doing well. I think he could really become something if he shows up in enough movies. And gets the right parts. But overall, the movie is just way too familiar and hits every single note, and despite the good performances, you just really don't care about anybody. So, that's kind of a missed opportunity with a cast like that. So, I think we're done.
Wow. So as always, we're going to run through everything, all 6 movies. You're going to say yay or nay one last time. The Giver?
No.
Boyhood?
Yeah, but a lot of people already beat me to it, so I don't even have to really say it.
Palo Alto?
No.
The Face of Love?
Like I said, I know who I'd probably recommend it to, The Crowd, but apart from that, no. It's even familiar to them, probably.
Probably. Beauty and the Beast?
Nope.
About Alex?
Like I said, if you've seen one movie in this genre, you've seen them all. So,
kind of a shame this week, really.
Yeah.
So, we're not done, folks. Not at all. We're done with this video, but this Friday, we've got Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Finally, it's been what, how many years that we're supposed to get this movie? 9? I buy it. If I Stay, When the Game Stands Tall, and 3 other releases. Do you have any idea of what any of them might be?
Probably, but I don't want to put anything in stone.
Smart move! And also, brand new Versus coming on Sunday, so animated Versus this time around.
changed it.
That was the original plan, and then we actually flipped it around. So we're going to go a little bit outdoorsy this time around. So that's going to be your cryptic comment, outdoorsy. Yeah, it sounds so horrible, doesn't it? So, AJ, any parting words?
That's it.